In some parts of the planet, survival does not depend on reacting, but on avoiding mistakes. There, the environment offers no second chances. For centuries, we have believed that humans stand at the top of the food chain. But that idea only holds true in spaces we have shaped to our advantage. Beyond them, the hierarchy shifts. In these places, strength and speed do not rule. What truly matters is the ability to read the environment. A fresh track, a barely noticeable change, a silence that serves as a warning. Because danger does not always announce itself, sometimes it is simply there. And that is when the question that begins this journey emerges. Would you survive by reacting or by anticipating? Welcome to CronoPlanet. Today, you will discover 6 real tribes that live daily alongside some of the planet's most dangerous predators. Peoples who have learned to survive in environments where mistakes are not forgiven. If you want to understand how different human cultures have adapted to places like these, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to join us in this and future documentaries. Stay until the end, because what you are about to uncover will surprise you. The last of these tribes does not face fangs or claws, but the enemy responsible for more human deaths than any other in history. This journey begins in the jungle, in a place where the most efficient predator does not chase its prey, it watches. 1. Matses, where silence means survival. Picture the rainforest at night, not as an empty place, but as an alert environment. Humidity weighs on the air, leaves barely move, and yet you feel as if something is assessing you from the darkness. Here, survival is not about seeing first, but about accepting that the predator may already be there before you even realize you have arrived. In Matse territory, the jaguar is more than a powerful animal. It is a silent, territorial hunter, evolved to approach without being detected. Its strength is impressive, but what truly makes it lethal is its method. It does not chase like other predators. It moves in, hides, and waits for the exact angle. In dense rainforest, where visibility is limited and sound blends into the background, this hunting strategy turns silence into a warning. Those who live in this region coexist with that presence without turning it into open conflict. They do not organize their lives to defeat the jaguar, but to minimize the situations in which an encounter might occur. Their first tool is observation, reading signals in the forest that others would overlook, fresh tracks on the ground, subtle changes in bird behavior, a sudden silence where there was activity moments before. Here, when the forest falls quiet, it is not calm. It is information. There are also decisions that are non-negotiable. Certain areas of the forest are never crossed at night, not out of irrational fear, but calculation. Darkness removes the little advantage humans still have and multiplies that of the feline. Here, timing matters. When you move, where you cross, and how long you stay. Survival resembles a precise choreography more than a direct confrontation. But there is an even deeper element. For this people, the jaguar is not merely an enemy to be eliminated. It is a boundary, a force of the territory that demands respect. That perspective transforms human behavior. When you understand that the forest does not belong to you, you move differently. You speak less. You expose yourself less. You observe more. Our civilization, by contrast, often does the opposite. It enters places as if they were its own, relying on noise, light, and haste. In a rainforest like this, that attitude would be an invitation to error. And here, the inevitable question arises. Would you walk the same way if you knew the forest was watching you? That awareness follows us now as we leave the jungle behind and travel to the opposite end of the planet. A white territory without shelter, where nothing allows concealment and where the margin for error drops to zero. 2. Inuit. When humans become prey. Imagine a place where the horizon is uninterrupted. No obstacles, no shadows, no blind spots. A landscape where you know something could be out there, miles away, before you are even aware of your own presence. In the Arctic, the predator does not flee from humans, and it does not hide. It stops, it watches, and it decides. The polar bear, the largest land carnivore on Earth, is one of the few animals capable of viewing a human as potential prey. Its survival depends on extreme efficiency. It can travel vast distances without showing fatigue, swim for hours in icy water, and detect human scent from several kilometers away. It does not attack on impulse. It assesses, and when the conditions are right, it acts. For the Inuit, living alongside polar bears is not an exception or an extraordinary event. It is part of everyday life. Here, stepping outside is never automatic. Every movement begins with a careful reading of the environment. Wind direction, visibility, the fresh texture of the snow. In a landscape where everything seems identical, one misread track can mean the predator has already passed, or that it is close. Cold shapes every decision. It slows you down, numbs your muscles, and limits reaction time. In this context, humans lose one of their usual advantages: speed. Against an animal that does not tire and knows the terrain better than anyone, raw strength stops being decisive. That is why survival here is not built on confrontation, but on anticipation. Vigilance is constant, even inside the settlement. At certain times of the year, especially when sea ice retreats and bears move closer to the coast in search of food, attention never loosens. No one travels alone. Every outing is known to the group, and any prolonged absence is checked. The layout of the space reflects this forced coexistence. Homes are placed where visibility is good, food is stored away from sleeping areas, and dogs serve as early warning systems, detecting scent and movement long before humans can. Yet the most important tool is not material, but perceptual. The Inuit read the snow as if it were a fresh record of what has happened. They distinguish new tracks from old ones, recognize when a mark suggests a casual pass and when it reveals deliberate movement, and watch the wind carefully, aware that it can carry their scent directly toward a predator they still cannot see. In this environment, a single individual decision can endanger the entire community. That is why responsibility is never personal, it is collective. Caution is not fear, but respect for a world that does not forgive mistakes. Here, humans do not occupy the dominant role. They are visible, vulnerable, and aware of their limits. They live beside a predator that does not always attack, but is always there. And they know that at any moment they can be assessed. And if they have misread the environment, turned into prey. This people has learned to live with that certainty. Our civilization, by contrast, has learned to live without it. We replaced observation with confidence, anticipation with reaction, and respect with a constant sense of control. In a place like this, That way of living would not last long. The question is not whether we could face a polar bear, but whether we would know how to read the environment in time. And if this form of survival already feels demanding, wait until you see what happens when danger stops leaving even tracks behind. Because from this ice that follows without haste, the journey now descends into an environment where risk does not announce itself, where the water looks calm, and where nothing moves without permission. 3. Dayak. The river decides who crosses. At first glance, the river looks still. The surface is smooth, the sky's reflection remains unbroken, and the water moves slowly, almost silently, as if nothing were happening beneath that calm layer that deceives anyone who does not know the place. No sudden movement, no obvious signs of danger. Nothing disrupts the peace, but in these rivers, nothing attacks from above. Here, the threat leaves no clues and offers no margin for error. It does not need to display strength. The danger is underneath, hidden, blended into the riverbed, and fully absorbed into the landscape. In these murky waters, where visibility is minimal, the boundary between environment and predator disappears completely. The crocodiles that inhabit Borneo's rivers do not need to move to hunt. They remain motionless for long periods, fused with the color of the water and the sediment. Only the eyes and nostrils break the surface, barely noticeable. From there they watch, calculate, and wait for the exact moment. There is no chase, no warning. When they strike, they do so with absolute precision. Their strategy is not built on speed, but on patience, and that patience turns the river into a place where calm must never be mistaken for safety. For the Dayak, the river is not neutral ground, nor a simple passageway. It is not only a source of water or food. It is a living territory with clear rules. Rules that are not negotiable and must be respected every day. Crocodiles are apex predators. They do not compete, they do not improvise, and they rarely fail. They attack from below in complete silence, with a force capable of pulling prey under without leaving a visible trace on the surface. Seconds later, the river looks calm again, as if nothing happened. That is why calm is not a guarantee here. It is often the prelude to the strike. Coexisting with this animal is not about confronting it, but about organizing life around its presence. Access to the river is strictly regulated. You do not enter at any time, you do not cross at any point, and you do not stay longer than necessary. Every contact with the water is a conscious, measured, collective decision. The Dayak set specific time windows for using the river based on decades of direct observation. These are not arbitrary rules. They are the result of watching again and again how the predator behaves. They know when crocodiles are most active, when visibility drops, and when risk multiplies even though nothing seems to have changed. Here, river use is planned with precision. Any impulsive choice is unnecessary exposure. Even the way villages are built reflects this forced coexistence. Many homes are raised on stilts, creating a clear physical distance from the water. That height is not only an adaptation to seasonal floods, it is a permanent barrier against a predator that rules the river, but not firm ground. That separation is not symbolic. It is a safety line, respected even when the river looks harmless. There are stretches that are simply not used, sections where attacks happened in the past, banks linked to sudden disappearances, places where someone entered and did not return. These locations do not appear on maps and have no visible warning signs. They do not need them. The knowledge is passed down directly and clearly from one generation to the next. Everyone knows where not to be, and above all, why. In these communities, mistakes are not repeated. An unnecessary movement, entering outside the accepted hours, or a miscalculated confidence becomes shared learning. Survival here is not about bravery, but discipline, respecting rules that were not invented but written by experience. Here, water is not just a resource, it is a boundary, a line separating daily life from absolute risk. And anyone who ignores it pays the price. Because in this place, the river decides who crosses and who does not return. The Dayak have learned to live beside a predator that gives no warning and offers no mercy. They have shaped their schedules, routes, homes, and collective memory around a constant threat. Our civilization, by contrast, has learned to trust visible signals, speed, and the belief that the environment should adapt to us. In a place like this, that confidence would be a mistake. The question is not whether we could swim, cross, or react in time. The question is whether we would know how to stop, respect invisible boundaries, and accept that there are territories where moving forward without permission is not progress. Keep watching. So far, danger had a shape, a territory, and clear limits. It could be observed, anticipated, even avoided. What comes next is different. It does not chase, it does not stalk, it overwhelms. For Mbuti, the danger that doesn't hunt, it overruns. In the Congo rainforest, not every danger stalks. Some do not wait or calculate, they simply move forward. Here, the greatest risk is not always trying to hunt. It does not follow a strategy. Sometimes it is not even aware that humans are there. Forest elephants and African buffalo push through dense vegetation like unstoppable forces. They do not move with deliberate stealth or intentional aggression. They move because the forest is their space, and their movement reshapes everything in its path. Their size, weight, and speed turn any encounter into a lethal threat, not through a targeted attack, but through impact, inertia, and the human inability to withstand a mass that does not stop. For the Mbuti, danger does not take the form of an ambush. There is no pursuit, no calculation before the strike. It appears as an intrusion, as the sudden arrival of something that was already in motion long before it was detected. A forest elephant can advance in relative quiet through thick undergrowth, hidden by the density of the vegetation. The environment muffles its presence. Its scale is camouflaged among trunks, leaves, and shadows. It does not need to notice a human to become a threat. It only takes crossing its path. In those moments, there is no warning and no time to react. Here, danger is not about intention, but impact. About what happens when two trajectories intersect in a space where there is no room to dodge. The Mbuti have learned to read signals that were never meant to announce anything. They are not alarms, but traces left without the intent to communicate. Deep prints in soft ground, branches snapped at a height impossible for a human, shifted logs, recent changes in the structure of the forest that can only be explained by the passage of a massive animal. Even faint vibrations, barely perceptible, moving through the ground before danger becomes visible. Signals that are not always seen, but felt. In this environment, knowledge is not used to confront. It is used to yield space in time. When they detect recent elephant or buffalo activity, the Mbuti do not hesitate to alter traditional routes. Paths used for generations are abandoned without debate if risk demands it. Collective memory does not override the present when safety is at stake. The priority is not to arrive quickly, it is to arrive alive. Group coordination is quiet and precise. No shouting, no sudden movements. Every gesture has a function. Every pause communicates a decision. The group moves as a single unit, adjusting pace and direction without breaking calm. Survival depends as much on emotional control as on physical control, on not reacting instinctively to a threat that cannot be stopped. Here, confrontation is not an option. Strength, technique, or any human tool cannot compensate for a mass that crushes everything in its path. The only viable strategy is to recognize the threat in time and yield space, to accept that there are trajectories you must not cross, to understand that the forest will not adapt to humans, and insisting on moving forward can be fatal. In this place, survival does not mean imposing yourself. It means knowing how to retreat without drawing attention, stepping out of the path before becoming an obstacle, accepting that sometimes the right path is the one you leave behind. The Mbuti have learned to live with a danger that does not chase or stalk, yet can appear at any moment and overrun without intention. They have adapted how they move, how they decide, and how they read the environment to that constant reality. Our civilization, by contrast, has learned to push forward, to trust strength, speed, and the belief that the environment should step aside. In a place like this, that way of living would not last. What do you think? Now, the question is not whether we could outrun a forest elephant. The real question is whether we would know when to stop, yield space, and accept that there are forces where the only form of intelligence is to step aside. After seeing how these communities have learned to move aside in order to survive, one question becomes inevitable. Would we recognize danger in time? Or would we trust ourselves to react when there is no margin left? If you have made it this far, you are already among those who watch the world more carefully. If this journey is showing you realities that are rarely told, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Keep watching. We are heading now to a place where danger does not always announce itself, where it is almost never heard, and where there is rarely time to react. 5. Aboriginal Australian peoples dying without seeing the enemy. Picture a dry, open landscape. Watch the ground before every step, because here, what you cannot see matters too. The deadliest danger does not always move or make a sound. It leaves no clear warning signs. And when it finally reveals itself, it is often too late. Across much of Australia, the threat is not massive or imposing. It does not announce itself with footsteps, nor does it rely on visible strength. It lives in the small, snakes, spiders, and other species whose defense is not power, but venom. They do not dominate the landscape, they share it. And their danger is not defined by size, but by the effect they cause. Australia is home to some of the most toxic creatures on Earth. In these cases, the damage is not always immediate or visible from the outside. It begins inside the body, when the nervous system, breathing, or blood clotting starts to fail without any obvious wound to signal the threat. For Aboriginal communities, this danger is not exceptional. It is everyday reality. It shapes how people walk, how they look, and how they occupy the land. Stop for a moment. Every step is chosen before it is taken. Think before you touch. Walking without watching the ground, reaching into a hole, or lifting a rock without caution can trigger a fatal outcome. Many of these species do not attack aggressively. They do not chase. They do not seek confrontation. They react when stepped on, disturbed, or surprised. The danger does not hunt, it waits. That is why survival here does not depend on reacting, but on preventing the mistake before it happens. Knowing where not to be matters more than knowing what to do afterward. There are high-risk zones clearly identified through accumulated experience. Rocky areas, dense scrub. Points where heat concentrates activity. Natural shelters that are never checked without caution. The land is not crossed at random. Every movement follows prior knowledge of the environment. Every stop is chosen carefully. Every unnecessary gesture is avoided. Preventive techniques are part of daily routine. Using controlled fire to clear areas, constantly scanning the ground before moving forward, or the habit of not walking barefoot in certain regions are not rituals or superstition. They are practical responses to an environment where a single bite may leave no time to act. This knowledge is not learned through improvisation. It is passed down orally, generation after generation, from early childhood. Children learn what not to touch, where not to sit, and which signs signal danger, long before they fully understand the consequences. Learning is preventive because here, mistakes cannot be corrected. In this environment, the small is more lethal than the big. Large animals often warn, intimidate, or can be seen. Venom, by contrast, works in silence. It attacks from within. The body begins to fail when the danger is already gone. That is why physical strength offers no protection here. Bravery is useless. Impulse does not help. Only knowledge makes the difference. Aboriginal peoples have learned to live alongside an enemy you do not see coming, adapting how they move, how they observe, and how they decide in a world where anticipation is the only real defense. Our civilization, by contrast, has learned to react, to trust speed, immediate assistance, and the belief that there will always be time to act later. Stop for a second and think, would you walk the same way, knowing there is no margin for reaction here? And now that you have seen dangers that stalk, chase, wait, and overwhelm, it is time to reveal what we promised at the beginning, the last one, the deadliest of all, the one with no fangs and no claws, yet responsible for more human deaths than any great predator on Earth. 6. Yanomami, the enemy that buzzes. Look closely. This is the animal responsible for more human deaths across history than any other. It is not big, it is not strong, and it is rarely perceived as a threat. It weighs less than a gram, yet it has been more lethal to humans than any great predator. Its danger is not in the bite itself, but in what it carries. In tropical regions like the Amazon, certain mosquitoes act as vectors for diseases such as malaria or dengue, responsible for millions of deaths over time. They do not cause an immediate collapse. Infection develops gradually, advances in silence, and weakens the body long after the contact has passed. When symptoms appear, the animal is gone. Only the consequence remains. Here lies a crucial difference. In much of the modern world, we also live alongside mosquitoes, but intermittently, depending on the season, and with clearer barriers between human space and the natural environment. We rely on public health prevention, and above all, on being able to respond afterward. In Yanomami territory, that separation does not exist. Contact is constant. Mosquitoes are part of daily life and remain present year-round in the same spaces where people live, sleep, and work. They do not appear only occasionally, and they cannot be avoided by moving a few meters away. That is why, for the Yanomami, this enemy is not invisible due to ignorance. It is invisible by nature. In this context, survival is not about reacting. Once disease takes hold, there is no confrontation left to win. Survival is built beforehand, not as permanent fear, but as a tension woven into everyday life. Smoke plays an essential role. Fires are not only for cooking or light, they create a constant barrier that reduces insects in lived-in spaces. It does not eliminate risk, but it keeps it under continuous control. Added to that is the regular use of plants with repellent properties, selected through generations of direct observation. These are not improvised solutions or emergency measures. They are knowledge applied every day. The key is not a single resource. It is the whole system, the layout of the living space, air circulation, activity schedules, living with fire always present. Everything follows the same logic. Act before harm has a chance to settle in. Here, health is not recovered, it is protected. On this journey, we cross jungles, ice, and extreme territories, places where humans survive only when they learn to read the environment in time. 6 peoples, 6 different realities, and 1 lesson. Survival is not about domination, but anticipation. These communities do not live this way because of isolation or backwardness, but because they have understood something essential that our way of life has gradually forgotten. Not every danger warns you, and not everything can be controlled. And now, the question is no longer about them. It is about us. Are we truly safer, or simply more disconnected from what surrounds us? Thank you for making it to the end. If this documentary made you reflect, let us know by writing the keyword of this documentary in the comments. Respect. That's how we know you share this attentive way of looking at the world. Subscribe to CronoPlanet and turn on notifications to keep discovering places where nature still sets the rules. And tell us if you would like a part 2. Your voice is part of this journey too. And remember, it is not always the one who dominates the environment who survives, but the one who learns to listen to it. See you at the next destination.